Next up in our series of Adobe Illustrator assignments, projects, exercises is the t-shirt design project. And here's the deal. First of all, I want to tell you that I am recording this on a Mac, so certain things are going to look differently. They're going to look a little bit different than what they do when you work on it on your own computer. And also, I am not connected to any of the network drives at school like my Drive H or the courses Drive, Drive L, but I'll show you the materials that are going to be there, and you should be able to carry on. And I can show you what to do, and you can carry on as if just as normal. All right, so let me first of all jump into, I'm going to pull up this handout. This handout is available on the courses Drive, Drive L, in the folder that's set aside for the t-shirt design project, and this has kind of all the requirements and point values lined out in it. So let's take a look at this first of all. It's a 60-point project. You're going to have to use Illustrator to design the front and back of a t-shirt. All right, now here come the requirements. Let's talk through these. First of all, for the most part, everything has to be designed right inside of Illustrator. All right. We're going to work with just the things that you know in Adobe Illustrator. Now I'm going to show you a few kind of possible exceptions to that, but for the most part it's got to be designed in Adobe Illustrator. Now the next thing here is that I want the designs to be positive and appropriate. It would be pretty easy when you're designing a t-shirt to work on things that could be considered kind of inappropriate for school, and I want to stay completely away from that. So let's make sure that you keep whatever design you make a positive and appropriate kind of thing. All right, you have to have some text. We're not going to do any graphic only t-shirts. Those are cool, and I've seen a lot of really great graphic only t-shirts, but I want you to use some text in here. That's part of why we've kind of worked on those t-shirt tricks about like text on a path and warping text and things like that. So I want you to use that in this design. Now you also have to use a graphic on your t-shirt, and that just means something that's not text. It has to be something that is more like artwork that goes on the t-shirt. And I've got some options for you that I'm going to show you here shortly in this movie. You have to do a front and a back. All right, if you just do the front, you don't get full credit. If you just do the back, you don't get full credit. There has to be a design for both the front and the back of the shirt. And also attaching a little bit of an effort score to this one. I want you to take anything and everything that you've learned in Adobe Illustrator and put it to work in making this t-shirt design. All right, now let's move on. There's a text option here. Text is a requirement, but there are several different ways that you could do the text, and any of these ways would count. All right, so this is kind of what I'm looking for as far as text goes. You must use at least one of the following text design ideas on either the front or the back. It doesn't have to be the front and the back, although it could if you want to do it that way. But to get the credit, what you've got to do is use one of these text ideas on either the front or the back. Now, please understand, you don't have to use all 8 of them. You have to use one of them. And all of these have kind of been covered in previous assignments that we did. Text on a closed path, like if it's going around a circle. Text on an open path. You did an assignment with that. Text in an envelope or warp. You've worked on that a little bit. Extruded, beveled text. Converted to text that's been converted to outlines. That's a possibility. Filling text with a gradient. We worked on that a little bit. Double stroked text. That was part of a previous assignment. Text that has a shadow. All of those are possibilities. Any of those would count. All right, those will get you your text requirement if you do that in the design of your shirt. I'm going to scroll this down. Now here's some other options. Shirt color is your choice, and that I'll show you what I mean here in a minute when I get into Adobe Illustrator. Ink color is your choice. Again, I'll show you what I mean when I get into Adobe Illustrator. This is harder to do when I'm not there. If you figured out how you can do the whole process of downloading fonts, that's okay with me. It's a little easier when I'm there. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on that right now. We've talked about Pathfinder functions, and those could really help you on when you're designing a t-shirt. If you need a football for your t-shirt, gosh, you can use the intersect feature on the Pathfinder to make a football shape really easily. Now, and this is what is going to help you with the graphics a little bit, and I'll show you this file in a minute. I'm not connected to Drive L, but I can show you the file. I've got some t-shirt design graphics that you're welcome to use if you want to, and they would count as the graphic requirement for this shirt. All right, and I'll show you those here in a minute in Adobe Illustrator. Now, some ideas that you might want to think about as you get ready to go into your design work. You could do some kind of plain field shirt, like for a team or an organization right here at the school. You know, for the basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, anything like that, or an organization like Guys and Dolls or the National Junior Honor Society. You know, you could take some or make one up. You do a PCMS Polo Club t-shirt. We don't have a polo club, but who cares, right? Make one up if you want to. You could design it for a college or pro sports team. You could try to design something for a group or a band. You could even make something that is based, I've seen t-shirts based on a candy bar or a movie or a TV show or some superhero or whatever. These are just kind of ideas to get you going, but remember you have to have a front and a back, and you have to have all of those things that are outlined in the requirements up here. All right, now remember this is, and scoring, I got to get to that. The requirement for positive and appropriate in nature, 10 points. You have to use one of the text options, 10 points for that. You have to have a graphic, 10 points for that. The completeness is doing a design for the front and the back, 10 points for that. Effort score of 20. If you add that all up, it is 60 points. You'll have to do 2 artboards for this. Remember, you have to do a front and a back. So what you're going to have to do in Adobe Illustrator is click File and New, and you'll make your, like the front of your t-shirt, and then save that as t-shirt front. And then you'll click File and New and make a new artboard and make the back of your t-shirt and call that t-shirt back. And then this says save your work on your network drive, but you know you'll also have to drag it and drop it into the Turn In folder on Drive L. Now we're going to hop over to Adobe Illustrator here next. I want to show you my examples, and then I have a couple of quick things to wrap it up. On my first one, I did a Science Academic Super Bowl shirt. All right, so, and this is actually a font that I downloaded from dafont.com. I don't know if you'll have this science looking font on your computer, but you'll see I've got a shadow behind that text. I've got a black shadow behind that text. This text actually has also been converted into outlines, so that would meet the text requirement right there. And here I've got again, this has not been converted into outlines, but it's just regular text, Science Academic Team, and I've got PCMS up here. Now the beaker I had to kind of draw just by using the pen tool and some of the drawing tools that are in Adobe Illustrator, and I worked on making these shapes that look like liquid that are falling into the letter S, and I filled this letter S with a gradient to make it look like the blue was flowing right into there and filling it up. That was just my idea. For the back of the shirt, I've got this. Obviously a big oval that's filled with a gradient. Now the rocket was the most work. I had to really kind of work on the rocket quite a bit. I worked hard to make the shapes, and I used the Pathfinder to do the things that I did there to make the fins of the rocket and get the shape of the body of the rocket. And so, you know, it took a little bit of work. I'd use the pen tool some. I've got text on a path right there that's arching across there because it is rocket science, you know, if you're on the Science Academic Super Bowl team, right? So that's the back of that shirt. Now I did another example that was it's a little less complicated. Not, you know, this one has some warped text across the top, says playing field, and warped text across the bottom, says basketball. And it's a black shirt. I wanted to make it look like it's a black shirt. And I used the pen tool and that width tool that you worked with a little bit when you did the character design stuff. I just made some pen tool strokes there and then made it wider in the middle and more narrow on the end. And then the back of that shirt, so I kept that pretty simple here. I just have some warped text that has like a last name and a number. And by the way, these numbers have been converted to the old object and convert to, or type, I'm sorry, type and create outlines to be able to fill them up with gradients. All right, so a couple of examples, front and back of the science shirt, front and back of the basketball shirt. Now, you're also going to find on Drive L, and I'm just going to click File and Open and see if I can track this down real quickly here. T-shirt design files. All right, I've got a file on Drive L that will look like this. And I didn't include every possible sport here, but if you want to use any of these graphics, as a part of your design, you can do that, and it will count as the graphic requirement that is a part of this project. You've got basketballs from different angles, and you can there's a golf ball here, and obviously a soccer ball, a volleyball, a baseball, or softball. I think that could actually be used for either. You got the Quaker guy, the winged foot for track or cross country, the Red Pride shield. And these could be they're grouped together, so you can just drag them and copy them and paste them and put them on a new artboard when you're working on it. All right, so all you got to do is open this file up. It's called T-shirt design files. It'll be on Drive L for this project, and you can just select what you want, copy it, paste it, and use it in your design if you wish. Just a handful of things that might make it easier. Now, when you're working on this, I want to show you one other thing, and I'm going to be done. I'm going to click File and click New, and I'll set my orientation here to landscape. I like it landscape. You could do it either way. It doesn't really matter that much, I don't suppose. And I'll click OK. Right there, I have a new artboard. Now the thing that I want to show you here is the idea of, okay, what about t-shirt color? You know, what if I want it to be a red shirt or a green shirt or a purple shirt or whatever? Well, here is what I would recommend you do. I'm going to close that panel over there. I'm going to take the rectangle tool here, and I'll just draw a large rectangle that fills the entire artboard like that. And then I will just take my black arrow, and I'm just going to select a color. Let's say I want a red shirt, just for the sake of demonstration. Okay, so I've got this red rectangle that's covering the entire artboard. Now I'm going to come over here to the right hand side, and down toward the bottom of this set of panels, there's it looks like just a couple of pages stacked up here, and it says layers. Here's what I would recommend you do. First of all, see this says layer 1 right over here. This is a lot like Photoshop. I can click in here and lock that layer so that that red box is never going to move around or anything like that. It's just going to be locked up. It's going to stay right there. Then I can come down here to the little button that looks like a page with a corner flipped up, and it says create new layer. So I'm going to click that. Now I have a layer 2. And if I start going to work on designing things that I want to have on this shirt, you know, if I make like a big old circle here, and it's not showing up well because it's red right now, but if I select that and, you know, whatever it is I'm going to do, I'll just make it white for the time being. You know, I've got you start putting your design elements on here, and you can move them around, put them wherever you want, but you're going to get more of a feeling of what that would look like on a red shirt. Right, because this layer 1 is a red background. And you know, all the design colors that you use and all that kind of stuff can be whatever you want. You can fill them with gradients or solid colors or whatever you want. And you can use whatever shirt color you want, and the way you can control that is on this layer 1, just put a big rectangle on there, make it whatever color you want it to be, lock it up, create a new layer, and then put all of your design elements that you're going to use on the second layer. That way it's floating on top of that shirt color that you want. Now if you're going to do that, make both the front and the back, like in this case, if this was going to be, you know, something for the front of my shirt, click File and click New. If I go to work on the back of the shirt, got to do the same thing on the back, right? If it's a red shirt, it's a red shirt. So I would want to take the back of the shirt here and make a big old rectangle there, select it, make it red, and then see that's on layer number 1 over here, so I would lock that layer up, make a new layer, and then I could go to work on designing the back of the shirt. I hope that makes sense to you, that if the front of your shirt is red, then I think the back of your shirt's going to be red, right? All right. Well, that's the t-shirt design project, and I'm kind of anxious to see what you come up with here, and have fun with this. We've had some really cool designs made in the past, so it's time for you to jump in and go to work.